dust storm, man. Nobody calls Han Solo a bitch.
Bring him on. I prefer a straight fight to all the sneaking around.
I don't know where you get your delusions, laser brain.
Oh, come on, bro. It's the wars.
You know, sometimes we just get a little laser focused on Star Wars that we forget that the name of this show is The Wars and More. This is The Wars and More. I'm Joe, and of course with me is my good buddy Doug. Hey Doug, how you doing this week?
Doing pretty good, Joe. How you doing?
Pretty good. You know, we talked about this a little while back, right? Like, we are The Wars and More. We can talk about more than just Star Wars.
This is true. Yeah.
Like, this is what we set out to do. We wanted, look, Star Wars is our focus.
Yes.
But we like other stuff too.
We certainly do. I would say, with as much Star Wars as we get these days, sometimes we get a little, have blinders on, but yeah, we do like other stuff.
Yeah. So this week we are going to branch off into some of that other stuff, particularly DC.
Yes. Which is
sorry,
I
just
like.
I had a little issue with my headphones there. I apologize.
Oh, you're good.
But yes, so particularly DC, and starting with J.J. Abrams. J.J. Abrams, Star Wars connection, so I guess we're not branching that far off, right?
I was going to say, yeah, it's kind of a crossover there.
Yeah. But we've all heard by now J.J. Abrams and Bad Robot is producing an upcoming Superman project, right?
Right.
So, of course, when people get the opportunity to ask him questions, they're going to ask him, are you interested in directing DC, right?
Did they ask it that way, or did they say, you are interested in directing DC, right?
Yeah, probably. I mean, something like that. Like, oh, this means you're definitely going to direct a DC film, right?
Of course.
So, well, he responded to that.
Yeah.
And he says, I know that Hollywood is a place where it used to be that people would be inspired by something that they would see, or an old film or a show or something, and think, oh, here's my response to that. Here's a version of that. Or here's a version of that. It's become a place where more often than not, you see something and people get inspired by it and go, let's redo that exact thing. I feel like, as someone who started writing in television and telling original stories on film and in TV, it is something that I really do miss. The few things that I'm working on now as a writer are original ideas. I just feel, as a director, I really would love to have my next projects be things that didn't pre-exist me necessarily.
Interesting.
I like that.
Yeah, me too.
He didn't exactly answer the question.
Right.
Because he went on talking about his writing, not his directing.
True.
But he finished up with saying, but as a director.
Well, I will say, I have a feeling the whole writing thing came out because, that's kind of where his head's at right now. That's where his focus is, probably. We can only assume. But, to hear somebody, a staple in Hollywood, come out and say, yeah, there's not a whole lot of original stuff, in so many words, right? So I'm trying to do original stuff. It's like,
well, he's not wrong.
Yes, that's what we want.
Yeah, he's not wrong. Everything is redos and sequels, like sequels that no one wants, right? Like,
right. Yeah.
Prequels.
I like how he put that too. You get inspired by something and it's like, ooh, I want to do that. I want to do that exact thing right there. That's not how it's supposed to work. We're supposed to be, we stand on the shoulders of giants, right? We take what came before and add something to it, not copy it.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the new films coming out, right? And particularly from like Warner Brothers, things like that. Stuff that JJ's worked with. It's another Godzilla versus Kong.
Yeah,
this is something that's happened before.
Yeah, exactly.
Mortal Kombat,
right?
It's something that's happened before.
Yes.
So he's not wrong. There's too much. Let's redo this or let's redo that. There's not too many new, fresh ideas. And it's questionable whether there's a market for original stuff anymore.
Yeah. I hate to say it like this, but it's kind of what I see is, it's just driven by the dollar, right? They know, the studios, they know they can make a rehash version of something that came before, and people will go see it and they'll make a profit. It's safe. That's
Well, I imagine a writer for a reboot or something like that's much cheaper.
Oh, sure.
Than a writer for an original idea.
Right. That's the problem, though. I really feel like they're, and I get it. I understand these are businesses, but man, you're making all of this decisions around money, because I honestly feel like that's the way it is,
Well,
ultimately,
we talked about, how COVID's kind of exposed the cookie cutter machine, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And how cinema, like the movie going experience, is going to change going forward.
Right.
Because people realize that, like, it really doesn't make a difference if I watch these rehashes at home on my phone or,
Yes.
like it just really doesn't matter. I didn't need to see it on the big screen.
Exactly.
The big screen's gonna become original stories are gonna be big screen stories now.
Yeah.
And going to the theater is going to be more of an experience.
Yep.
Than it was in the past.
Absolutely.
It's going to be much more like going to see like the theater, right?
Right.
Like
an event.
Live theater.
Yes.
So, yeah, he's. I appreciate the sentiment from him though, and I don't want to say like it's been proven because he seemed to kind of phone it in at times.
Right.
But I mean, this does kind of clear that up a little bit because that really wasn't his passion to do something that's been done or something like that. He really wants to do something original.
Yeah. Well, it's good. It's good that, somebody with as big of a name as he's got in Hollywood is actually coming out and saying it, because, we do live in a time where, so a lot of people don't want to rock the boat, right? They want to be able to get that next directing gig or whatever, so he's got the clout. He can say it. So here he is saying it. Needs some more original content.
Right. And this is one of those things that I will give Rian Johnson to Rian Johnson's credit, right? Rian Johnson wants to make original films no matter what he's doing.
Right.
Whether it's a pre-existing property or not, he wants to make an original film.
Yeah, that's the problem. I was going to say. So stick with something completely original. That'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, but that's to his credit, right? He wants to make something new.
Yes.
Sometimes when you're doing that, you do step on what is pre-existing, not only like pre-existing as, Star Wars as a history, but just the film before yours.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just imagine how that interview process went. It's like, I'm going to turn Star Wars inside out, right? That's, I mean,
Which, I mean, arguably after The Force Awakens, that was kind of welcome, right? Like that kind of idea. Just didn't know it was going to go that far.
Right.
But like, I like his mindset, right? He wants to make original content. And I want to see original content.
Yeah.
Star Wars is one of those things that, like, it's should probably stick to the story. But yeah, I'd like to see new, fresh. And there's plenty of things in The Last Jedi that I did like that were new and mind blowing. Like,
right.
But it was within that franchise, so you probably should have stuck with that.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I just like this idea for the future of cinema, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Outside of any franchise,
I feel like we're at a point where they're going to have Hollywood are going to have to start thinking outside the box, or they are going to start losing a lot of market share. I mean, there's a lot of options for people these days. They got 5 streaming services coming to their house that they're already paying for. So getting you out to the theater, once the rush of everyone wanting to just get out and do something fades, they might have to get creative.
Well, that's where they're nailing it, right? That's where the original ideas are showing up, is in Netflix
yes,
series or limited series.
Right.
You're seeing what would be a cinematic release done in 6 or 8 episodes in a limited series on Netflix or HBO, or
which is another thing that is kind of refreshing, because
yes,
you get to take your time and tell a story now,
mm-hmm.
as opposed to, okay, we got to jam this into 2 hours, let's go.
Yeah, and I hope that makes the cinematic, what's the word I'm looking for? Cinematic battleground,
Yeah.
More original.
Yes.
Because you're seeing so much success in, those streaming service series. Because that's where I'm finding my best entertainment anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is this series on this service and this series on that service that's nothing like anything we're seeing everywhere else.
Right.
I mean, you look at, I'll just use Stranger Things as an example, right?
Oh, yeah.
Stranger Things is set up to where it could have been a film franchise.
Absolutely. Yeah, without a doubt.
But Hollywood doesn't give a damn about new stories. So here it is in a Netflix series.
Yep. Yeah.
Great stuff.
Great stuff. Absolutely.
But that absolutely could have been, put into a format that was, big cinema type stories.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think we are standing at the edge here. About to see some sort of change happen before our eyes. Don't know exactly what's coming, but in order for it to continue on, there's definitely going to be, we've had our own speculations, but there's definitely going to be some sort of shift from what we knew as theater goers. So,
yeah. And, I mentioned Stranger Things. That was really like the catalyst series, right?
Oh, yeah.
That was really the series that took off in popularity and really kicked off what you see now with Disney Plus. And yeah, the pandemic helped. I just think it helped accelerate it.
Exactly. As with most things that have gone on with this thing, all these things are slowly heading that way. This was like the kick in the pants to make all of the stuff like come to the fore. Yeah.
Yeah. This is one of those things, though. We've been watching it. We'll continue to watch it. I'm really interested in how the movie going experience is going to change going forward, because it's been drastic.
Well, if JJ comes up with some good original material, yeah, it's probably where we'll see it. Be nice.
All right, Kevin Feige.
Ah, yes. So, Kevin Feige, a while back there was rumors, right? They announced that he's going to do a Star Wars film, and then it was, we're going to have the MCU of Star Wars going on. Kevin Feige might take over, right?
Right.
So, according to insiders, he is not. Hey, it's the kind of information we get these days.
Yeah, I know. That's why I went,
After it was announced in 2019 that Feige would produce a Star Wars movie, there were rumors that he might assume more control of Lucasfilm. However, insiders say that Feige is fully committed with his Marvel duties and has no ambition to lead Lucasfilm or take more of a role. Few details have emerged about the Star Wars film he wants to make, and no production timelines have been set. So, sources familiar with the matter.
Yeah. Did you notice that they said insiders like twice within the first two sentences?
It's true. It's a true statement.
Ugh.
But
Hate that.
If there's any grain of truth to this, I think it's probably a good thing. Something we've talked about in the past was, having a Kevin Feige of Star Wars, but not Kevin Feige himself.
Yeah, we didn't want it to be Kevin Feige.
Exactly. Some people did. So
well, a lot of people did for some reason.
I don't know. Yeah. But hey, I guess if this holds true, I guess that's fine. So,
I mean, this is one of those things I believe, right? Like, even though they say insiders and people familiar with and blah blah blah,
right?
Everyone's a coward and won't say their name.
Exactly.
Or we're making this shit up. One of the two.
All of the above.
I believe this one. I don't think he would want to run the MCU and come in and run Star Wars.
Right. I mean, Star Wars is a completely different animal.
Not only that, but I mean, you're talking massive franchise to massive franchise.
Yes. I mean, I believe every bit of, Kevin Feige being a fan of Star Wars and all that, and would love to come in, do this movie. But during production and pre-production of the movie and all that, I have no doubt he's going to be deferring to all of the quote-unquote Star Wars experts on, hey, can we do this? I can't believe he has some sort of like Dave Filoni encyclopedic knowledge of, the whole, galaxy far, far away. So, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I just can't see him heading up the whole thing and running it. I think he's got a knowledge base like that for the MCU, at least his MCU, So, and I think that's where, his headspace needs to be at. And that's good.
Well, I think if they're grooming anybody to take over Star Wars, I would say it's probably Jon Favreau.
Yeah, that could be.
Jon Favreau has that, kind of mentality to be a showrunner, to be a head of a series.
Yep.
Whereas Dave Filoni's flat out said, like, it's not my wheelhouse, right? Like,
right. But I believe if you're going to have a Jon Favreau running the Star Wars universe, Dave Filoni's going to be right there for the whole thing. I think the
the king needs his advisors. Right?
Absolutely. That's exactly right. I think they've done such a good job together, on the projects they've worked on so far, that, I think they're taking note of how good this duo, this team is working out.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's lots of calls for Dave Filoni to be elevated to this position of a, Kevin Feige of Star Wars.
Right.
But I don't ever want to see Dave taken out of a creative position.
Exactly.
That's me. Yeah, I'm all for like wanting people to get promoted and advance in their workplace and things like that. But I mean, selfishly, I'm like, this dude needs to keep creating.
Okay, my vote is Dave Filoni for CCO, Chief Creative Officer. There we go. Lucas.
Even then, though, I mean, you get stuck in that bureaucratic portion of it, right?
Yeah, well, you know what I'm saying. It's like, hey, where's Dave? Oh, he's drawing something over there in the corner. That's. I mean, I just feel like, give him a title, because apparently titles matter, but give him a title like that or something, but let him do his thing,
Right. Yeah. He just needs to stay in the creative portion. That's my personal take.
Yeah. Agreed.
All right. So back to DC.
Yep. Here we go.
So the Snyder Cut.
Yeah.
It's been a long time coming.
Yes, it has. I mean, online campaigns, a lot of back and forth between fans,
Procrastination on our part.
There's that. Yes.
There's been a lot of Star Wars stuff going on.
This is true.
I mean, even when there wasn't a lot of Star Wars stuff going on, there was still enough for us to keep pushing this kind of stuff aside.
That's right. So when you say a long time coming, you're just talking about us. Okay.
I mean,
gotcha.
Us and, really, because this is really the film we should have gotten in the first place.
Right.
I got to say, hot take, it was long. Man, was it long.
Yes.
That did make it a little hard. I would have rather have seen, like we talked about this with the potential for the Rise of Skywalker, right? I would have rather seen 2 films.
Okay.
Because man, this was long.
I did like the way they did it, though.
They did
proportioning it out into these chapters.
Yeah,
that was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was funny because it almost gave you, knowing that you weren't going to be able to watch this in the same sitting if you're busy like I am.
Right.
It did give you excuses, right? Like, chapter 3. It's like, this is a good place to stop.
Yep, exactly. Because it is like a little pause. So, yeah.
And there were more good pauses than that, with just character shifts and things like that.
Oh, sure.
Like, this was separated into a lot of different acts.
Yeah. And in doing so, like the way they did it, it really reminded me of, if you're reading this in a like comic book form, I like that because you're getting these digestible bites. I mean, you could sit down and watch the whole thing right in a row, just like if you can grab 6 comic books and read them all right in a row. But you could also one a week or something, you know.
Yeah. And even still, it was like reading a comic book, and, you know, I was like, you know, you're not going to get the next issue till next month or
Right.
next week or whatever.
Exactly.
It was very comic booky.
So, yes, okay. So you said long, but overall impression of the film.
Well, I mean, it was a very different film from the other one, even though it had a lot of the other film in it.
Yes.
I mean, and that makes sense. I mean,
Yeah.
neither director was going to cut everything of the others,
Right.
but just everything just seemed to be done better.
Agreed.
Better explanation of characters, particularly.
Yes. Yes. I loved the focus that we got on these characters, and more in-depth explanations and origins kind of thing.
Right. And, you know, sometimes you have fallbacks, right? If you're a follower of the comics or the books or something like that for any franchise, you have fallbacks. You know, they bring a character in, it's like, oh, well, I know that character's history.
Sure. Yeah.
But in this situation, you know, Cyborg is not traditionally a character that we associate with the Justice League.
Right.
You know, he's a Titans character, you know, like,
Right.
it's just not one name. So his association with the Justice League, especially at its beginning, is not something that we have no knowledge to fall back on.
Exactly.
So getting a backstory to flesh out this character and things like that made it much better.
Yes.
Like, much better. And truly turned Cyborg into a character I really got behind. I really enjoyed this character.
Yeah, it was good. I liked it.
And it was one that in the Whedon cut, I was kind of like, I still don't know why he's here.
Right. Agreed. I yeah. It's a good way of putting it. Not sure why he's there, because he's the main character that you, I would say, you get like a lot more info on, and I think it was all worth it, you know.
Right. Like, that is the I would say the comparison between the Whedon cut and the Snyder cut here is, you said main character. He was the main. So in the Whedon cut, he was a side character that was masquerading as a main character because of the box.
Right.
Whereas in this one, he was a main character.
Absolutely.
And his role was very important.
Yes.
And his father's role was very, very important. Whereas, like I said, in the Whedon cut, they were side characters masquerading as main characters because of that box.
Absolutely. Yep.
I mean, not a single element of the Justice League in the Snyder cut, every single one of our heroes felt like a main part of the story.
Right.
None of them felt ancillary.
Yeah. So
Whereas the
go ahead.
Whedon cut, it was like, okay, it's Batman. He's trying to get everyone else together. And then at the end of the movie, it's like, oh, Superman's the main character.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Like, this one let Superman breathe.
Yeah.
You know, it let Superman's reappearance breathe. It wasn't just like, he's back, now he's going to save the day.
Exactly.
They couldn't have done it without him.
It took a minute to get him back. Yes. And I could appreciate that, you know, because you had to work yourself through these paces, you know, with these boxes and learning what the boxes were all about. And even, you know, even the stuff with Wonder Woman, right? She, you know, learning these origins of it and all that. That was awesome. You know?
Right, but like, so in the Whedon cut, they couldn't win without Superman.
Right.
There was just no way.
Right.
Now, it was like that in this film too, but they were winning up to a point without Superman.
Right.
Superman was the last piece of the puzzle.
Right.
So it wasn't, they went into a situation they knew they couldn't win or whatever, and just went in deciding to, try or get their asses kicked, like.
Exactly.
No, this one they went in thinking, okay, we could still pull this off. And for a long time, it looked like they could.
Yep.
Until they reached that one stage where they needed that extra piece that completed the Justice League.
Right.
It wasn't just, Superman's the key here. So I did like that.
Yes.
He was the key, but he was the key because it completed the team.
Yep.
They needed all their talents to make this happen, as opposed to he was just the one to do it.
Right. It did feel more like a team in this cut too.
Way more like a team.
Yeah.
Every single character played their part.
And okay, so the other thing, villains. I have to say, I love the fact that we actually got to see Darkseid in this.
Yeah.
I mean, that was something that was sorely lacking in the other one.
Well, this is the set-up film, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's what it was. It was intended to be.
Yep.
But yet, for some reason, they decided they just wanted to name the setup character instead of show him.
Right.
Show you why this is a character to be feared.
Yeah. Knowing what I know of Darkseid from the comic books, it's like, wow, okay, now there is a real threat. This is some bad stuff coming. That's right. Yeah.
In this one, it explained that, like, in his first attempt to take Earth,
yeah,
it took gods.
Yes. Which was
gods to push him back.
Another portion of the story I loved. I love this explanation.
Not a god, gods.
Yes.
To push him back.
Yep.
So this, even though he was defeated in this film, that wasn't lost on me. That was Zeus and Ares.
Right.
That had to push him back. So, in that first battle, you see one of the early Green Lanterns, right? Like, this is before the established history we know of Green Lantern.
Right.
Defeated.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So that really puts some perspective to how menacing this character is and how tough. And then let's go on to Steppenwolf.
Yep.
Steppenwolf was a punk in the Whedon cut.
Right.
I'm sorry. This was I'd look at the Whedon version of this and I'd look at him like I look at Whiplash from the Iron Man films. Like, what a punk of a villain.
Right.
And then I see the Snyder cut. I was like, wow. That's a good villain.
Yep.
Like, even though he's the bumbling idiot of the group of villains he represents, he's still formidable.
Right.
Which now tells you that the people that are going to follow are going to be even tougher.
Exactly.
Like, that dude fought toe-to-toe with the best heroes Earth has to offer. And he's the weakest of what they have to send?
Right.
That was much better done.
Yes. So another element that I thought was fabulous, I could have used some more. I will say that, but the fact that we actually got some Martian Manhunter made me very happy.
Yeah.
Because for me, that's he's a key piece of the Justice League. So
Well, he's an early Justice League staple, right?
Oh, absolutely.
You know, we beat on Cyborg a little bit when we talk about that. Like, why? What, Cyborg? Why? Like,
right?
Why not Martian Manhunter? Why not some of these other characters that were early on in the Justice League?
Right.
They go with Cyborg, who was a Titan.
Yeah.
But
which, like we said, ended up working, but
oh no, in the Snyder cut, that character was fantastic.
Yeah.
But in the Snyder cut, we got Martian Manhunter.
Exactly.
And you see these interviews now and things like that. He was going to use John Stewart, Green Lantern.
Uh-huh.
Like, that would have been fantastic.
Yes.
But there was pushback from the studio because of some Green Lantern projects they are working on, which leads me to believe that they're going to do a John Stewart Green Lantern, which would be fantastic.
Right.
I mean, and the perfect way to step away from the Green Lantern fumble that they had.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a character they fumbled that they really shouldn't have.
Agreed.
There's no reason. I mean, the Green Lantern has good villains to deal with. Shouldn't have been such a miss.
Right.
But it was.
Yeah.
And then they lost him, and now he's at Deadpool.
Yes.
Making fun of your movie.
Exactly. Right. I was just going to say that.
Well, I mean, like, not to go off topic too much, but in all honesty, he's a better fit for Deadpool than he was for Green Lantern.
Absolutely. There's no doubt.
His wisecracking, that's his bit. He's good at that.
Right.
But yeah, the whole John Stewart Green Lantern idea, I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I would just like to see this stuff continue. Because what the first cut of this film did was stall it.
Yes.
Whereas this one opened it back up. We got the entry we needed to this greater story that would be the Justice League.
Yep.
To this like Marvel franchise type thing, right?
Yes.
I say type thing, but this has more.
If
meat to it.
Yeah, it certainly does. If we would have gotten this in the first place, I honestly feel like we'd be looking at more of these to come. We'd be getting hit with DC movies left and right.
And now what are we looking at? That Ben Affleck's never going to put the cowl on again.
Right.
Henry Cavill may never don the cape again.
Right. Which is a shame.
It's a shame because what happened in this film was a perfect launchpad.
Yes.
For what could come in the future. This film was not meant to be groundbreaking and, the most amazing Justice League film you're going to get. No, this was meant to lay the foundation.
Right.
And I think it did that really well.
That it did.
It's just too bad that they rushed out the other version.
Yeah. And again, I was talking earlier about studios and let's put something out there to make some money. I think that's what they were thinking before. Clearly they're always looking to make money. I get that. But it's do we have to compromise the story and stuff a little bit? Yeah. Okay, that's okay. Let's just get it out. That's the problem I have, because, man, this was something that was a far better product, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. And I am a little surprised because I was kind of critical of Zack Snyder before.
Right.
Because, it seemed like every fight he had between these characters, he had to destroy entire cities.
Oh, yeah.
With Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman.
Right.
Like, everything had to be total destruction. Now, Batman vs. Superman, I gave a pass because he brought Doomsday into it.
Yeah.
Which, Doomsday, the character's name is Doomsday.
Exactly. And destroying cities was kind of his thing, yes.
Yeah, it's kind of what he did.
Yeah.
I didn't appreciate how he did Doomsday, but
yeah.
That's neither here nor there. But he nailed it with this one. And this cut, it's long. I'll say that again. It's long.
Right.
But I think it was worth it. And I hope they take this cut and revisit their future decisions for the DC cinematic universe, right?
Agreed.
Because they have a good thing going here. And with the films that followed and things like that, like Aquaman, Aquaman followed the other film, but was a good film.
Yes.
Aquaman was fantastic.
That was an excellent movie.
So they had the building blocks. It pains me to see this abandonment of this
I know.
whole thing they were putting together.
I know, because we are all left with a just imagine what could have been thing here. And it's man.
I hope they didn't just release this because that's what people wanted. And it's let's shut them up.
Well, I gotta be honest. I feel like if COVID wasn't a thing, we might not have ever seen this.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you. They would have let this ride, let it die.
Yep.
This is one of the few things that I guess the whole pandemic gifted us, right?
Hey, you gotta take your positives where you can get them here. Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of the positives, I guess.
Yep.
I really hope that they take a look at what the fans think. Don't look at what the critics think, because the critics are just don't believe them anymore.
Right.
Critics are out of their mind.
Yeah.
You can head over to Rotten Tomatoes and look at critic score versus audience score on so many films now.
Oh yeah.
And just see the difference.
It's huge. Most of the time, it's huge.
We're not talking 5% or anything like that anymore. We're talking 25 to 30% on almost every film
or more. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Difference between critics and audience. This shouldn't happen.
Right.
So either critics are getting too high of an opinion of themselves, or
yeah,
they have other interests that don't line up with what audiences are looking for.
Yeah.
I.e. corporate interests.
Yeah, exactly.
I find more and more that I feel like critics are being bought.
It's possible. I don't know. I have no other explanation for that kind of stuff going on, but it just makes sense. Hate to say it, but it's true.
So, yeah, but overall, Justice League, Snyder Cut.
Heck yeah.
A film worth watching. And I dreaded that whole concept, right? You put a movie out, just stand by it.
Right.
you know, this is going to cause nothing but problems if you revisit it. Well, that's true.
It's true, but then
It's true.
you know, we're looking at the DC universe, which is nothing like, you know, quote unquote Star Wars canon. You know, it's not so precious. So, you know, to have
DC canon.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's okay to do this with DC, and I think it, you know, it was for the benefit of all of us. That's for sure, to be able to see this film this way.
No, I love how DC handles stuff, right? Like, oh crap, we made a canon you know, we stepped on our own toes with the canon. They're like, just have Flash run through time. He'll screw it all up and
Exactly.
It explains the new timeline.
Yep. Yeah. We got
And then they
fix
do it
for
and
this.
like, damn it makes sense again. Flash needs to stop messing with stuff.
Right.
So, yeah. Definitely worth the watch, though.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm glad they did it.
Have something to add to the conversation? Or you just want to let us know how we're doing? Email us, show@thewarsandmore.com. That's the best place to get in on the action. But if social media is a little more to your liking, @TheWarsAndMore on Twitter is always a good place to interact with us. And we're also on Facebook, facebook.com/TheWarsAndMore. And of course, your portal to this and everything else, The Wars and More, is thewarsandmore.com.
All right, back to the wars. Back to the wars. This is enough of that, right?
Yes. Right. Enough more.
Yeah, enough more. The wars first, man. The wars first.
Yes.
The Bad Batch. Episode 3, Replacements.
Heck yeah.
So, I'm yet to find a bad thing to say about this show.
I know.
They're just nailing this.
Absolutely. I feel like this was kind of like a setup episode, you know, setting us up for things to come. But
Right, which is the same way I felt last week.
okay.
You know, I felt last week was a setup, and I think we're going to see more of this. It's going to build.
Sure.
And each week's going to build a little more, because I don't want to jump around too much, but one thing we've seen every single week, and I think was really highlighted in this episode, was the attitude of the Kaminoans to the Empire.
Yes.
This week, this was put on display blatantly.
Right out in front. They are worried about what the Empire is going to do to their business model.
Yes, but this has been something that's been in every single episode so far.
Yes,
it's been there, but it's been subtle.
Yep.
This week is in your face.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna say it. I think we are headed for another war.
Yeah. I have to agree with you. I think we're getting set up. Even the tensions. Okay. I mean, we're seeing it on a micro level, but I think it's going to expand, let's say galaxy wide, right? We have Crosshair, a clone, training the recruits, the conscripted. So,
right.
You know, you have the clones who have been doing this forever now. And if you have clones training their replacements, nice.
Yep.
You know, there's bound to be the tension, and we got to see that tension firsthand, And it's funny because we kind of got the attitude of some of the conscripts as well, where they talk about, hey, I get paid, got a roof over my head, nothing to worry about. The Republic never gave me that. What are you willing to give up for that security? That financial security, that, willing to give up your freedom? Yeah, some people are, clearly.
Yeah, but it was still wild to see that very same character that said all that.
Yep.
Step back and say, whoa.
Yeah, exactly.
These are non-combatants.
Right. When the rubber hits the road, yeah. Is that truly how you feel?
Yeah, that humanity took over.
Exactly.
So, this is hitting on so many notes because we've seen in the sequel trilogy the conditioning that the mention of conditioning,
right,
for the new generation of stormtrooper,
right.
Starting at a young age, they're conditioning them like they did the clones.
Yeah,
because they don't want that humanity. They don't want that compassion.
That individualism.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're seeing this show build on all of those elements, like the Empire's version of stormtroopers versus the First Order's version of stormtroopers compared to the clones. And then as far as the clones, especially with Crosshair, we saw in the beginning of the Clone Wars where the clones were almost like just a human version of the droids on the other side.
Exactly. Yes.
There was no individuality. They were like flesh machines.
It was almost episode 2 clones. Yeah.
Yes. Flesh machines, right?
Yep.
They followed orders. They did what they were told. They had a certain program they had to execute, even though they were flesh and blood beings.
Yep.
And then we saw that evolve into individuality. The clones looking for personal identities.
Right.
And now with Crosshair, we're seeing a reverse of that. Going away from that individuality, moving back into that droid-like programming.
Yep. And the one thing I have to say, the one thing that drove that home is the line, "A good soldier always follows orders."
Right.
He almost said that robotically, like it's either a mantra or, like you said, a program.
But I gotta say, this show has done such a good job. Like, we've only seen the Bad Batch characters for 4 episodes in the Clone Wars,
right?
And 3 episodes now.
Yep.
But yet I'm sitting here listening to Crosshair say that, and I'm yelling at my screen, "Since when?"
Yeah, exactly.
Like the connection they've got for me with these characters already is ridiculous.
Yes.
But yeah, that like we said, it's droid-like, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's clearly the inhibitor chip.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which, a note on the inhibitor chip, you see Tech working on a scanner, right?
Right. Yes.
To look at their own inhibitor chips, even though they know they're defective.
Right.
He still wants to verify that.
Absolutely.
He's not convinced. But at the same time, Wrecker's having head pain.
Oh, yeah. Yep, they crash landed. He conked his head there, but it was kind of like right where the chip is.
And he kept holding that, that left side.
Oh, yeah.
Right where that chip is. We've seen that, a couple times already in the Clone Wars. That's where it is.
Right.
We know where that inhibitor chip is now. Like they've done a good job of identifying location for us.
Yep.
And he keeps holding that. He's it'll be all right. It'll be all right.
Yeah.
Something's wrong with Wrecker.
Exactly. I got a bad feeling that there's going to be
I got a bad feeling about this.
a little wreckage going on. Yes.
Good job. Good job.
Hey,
Well
thanks. Thanks. Hey, that was a callback. Almost as many, almost like they had it so many of in this episode, right? Because they have their own Empire Strikes Back whole scene, right? Crash landing, got to go outside and repair the ship. It was, we had the whole Minoc jump scare thing going on.
Yep.
You had the gas masks and all that. It was like, wow, this is so Empire Strikes Back. I loved it because, it was not subtle. I'll say that, but it was just enough to make you smile, like, hey, see what you're doing there.
Yeah. They know what they're doing.
Oh yeah.
And I mentioned Wrecker, like we're worried about Wrecker.
Yep.
They did throw a little bit at the end showing like real humanity out of Wrecker.
Oh yeah.
With the, here's your own room.
Yeah.
I mean, this was to, I think, throw us off the scent. Like they were putting us on it like, oh, look, he's having these pains right where the inhibitor chip is. Oh, but he's all right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's still a big softy. Yeah.
So trying to throw us off of him, even though they're building up something to happen.
They are definitely building up something to happen. And I'm afraid, you're kind of seeing all this play out too, because, we have the part where, Omega brings out, she's like looking for the part, is it in here? Oh, that's Crosshair's weapon kit. And Wrecker's the one who comes out and says it. Yeah, I miss him. It's like, hey, he shot you. Yeah, and it hurt, but they're all kind of missing
brother,
him.
though, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're all missing him. And when Omega is actually explaining to them, like, look, it's not his fault what he's doing. It's the chip. I think this is actually setting up a whole nother plot line where they're going to try and get him back.
Oh, I agree. And even with Hunter.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, well, it's not his fault. It's the chip. He's like, yeah, but we left a man behind.
Exactly.
Like, he's not feeling guilty about, he's not angry about the betrayal or anything like that.
Right.
He's feeling guilty about leaving a man behind.
Yeah.
Even with his betrayal. Like, he'd rather bring him kicking and screaming and flailing and try and find a solution.
Yes.
Than leave him behind.
And I think that comes back around to where Tech said, priority number one is getting these chips figured out.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think Hunter said this is priority number one, so that, if they can figure out how to deactivate them, whatever, then that's going to be their main goal. Get Crosshair back, deactivate the chip.
Right.
Yeah.
Did we ever think just a little trip down memory lane?
Okay.
Did we ever imagine that Order 66 was going to be this intricate?
Oh, God, no.
I think looking back on it in the past, it was just like, oh yeah, this was an order that they were, brought up with, since birth. They were just trained this way. When they heard it, they're like, oh, that.
Right. Kill Jedi. Done. Yeah.
Like they were just trained. Like if the Jedi ever betrayed the Republic, this is what we do.
Right.
No. There's literally a behavioral modifier.
Yep. Which can apparently be reprogrammed and reprogrammed, because we saw Crosshair getting another dose of programming.
Yeah. Electricity. What a magical drug.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a wild thing. I did not think Order 66 was this complicated. But it really is.
But with most things that Palpatine was behind, it gets pretty complex. But and you have to remember he's kind of like orchestrating all this from the shadows.
Right.
So, and he's been playing a very long game with all of it.
Right. All right. So back to what we touched on.
Yeah.
This war that's brewing.
Yes.
I mean, are we looking at the setup for a war between clones and conscripted Empire soldiers?
It's pretty clear. Yes. I think at some point, Kaminoans are either going to be found out or maybe Rampart will find out what they're scheming, and he'll tell Tarkin, and Tarkin's just going to show up with 4 or 5 Star Destroyers and, lay waste to Kamino or something like that. And something like that could spark something in all the clones that are, out in the galaxy, and it's just all out, clone wars, plural, then.
Yeah. So we saw an end to the Clone War.
Yep.
And we're about to see the beginning of the next Clone War, making it the Clone Wars.
I'm thinking so. Because
so far we've only seen one war.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm thinking, with the kind of talk that we're hearing from the Kaminoans, right? The talk of the enhanced clones and our special project and all this and that. All of that talk, from my opinion, would be treason as far as Tarkin is concerned. He doesn't have much tolerance for that sort of thing.
He doesn't have much tolerance.
Oh yeah, period. Yeah.
Yeah, period.
So I do
This
think
is a dude that I cannot believe that they make this dude more and more evil every time he's on screen.
Every time. Yeah.
I don't know how it's possible. Because this is a bad guy.
Yeah.
We know this.
Yep.
But each and every time we're like, man, I really hope they blow this dude up someday.
What, like put him on a giant ball out in space?
Yeah.
Just blow the whole thing up? Yeah, good idea. But
they really do a good job of making us hate this guy.
Exactly. He's just cold, calculating.
So bad. Like,
yeah.
Just no, like, he doesn't want to eliminate just the threats. He wants to eliminate everything associated with it.
Right.
So if rebels are protecting a group of people,
oh yeah,
well, that group of people needs to go too.
Yeah.
This is a bad dude.
That is true.
And it keeps getting fleshed out more and more. This is really not a guy to like.
And, there's this whole rivalry thing going on with Saw. Do you get the impression that Tarkin is just kind of like toying with Saw? Like, if he really wanted to, he knows where he's at. I mean, they could just lay waste to that whole continent that he's on, on that planet, and be done with it. But he's like using Saw's presence to...
Well, he's arrogant, right?
Well, it's true, yeah.
He wants everything to be an example.
Right.
Never just snuff it out.
Right.
You got to snuff it out to where other people see and won't follow.
Right. It's true.
So he's very arrogant in the fact that he feels he can position everything to suit his goals.
Yeah.
Good or bad for them.
Yep. Clearly, right now, he's pretty much anti-clone. So, which leads us right back to what you were talking about before with the wars. So, I'm thinking this is definitely going to be something in our future here. Mm-hmm. This is where this show's going to go. I gotta say, I thought, man, how far can they go with this show, really? But where the story's leading us already with just 3 episodes in.
Yeah, I'm thinking 7 seasons.
Yeah, it could be big. Yeah. So, so I'm liking that too.
Yeah. Yeah, they're definitely, I'm definitely feeling comforted in knowing this is not likely to be a one and done.
Right.
This is something that could go on for a minute.
Yep.
Yeah, they're just sowing the seeds for future right now.
Absolutely.
And I really like that. I couldn't stop watching. Like, I never got bored.
Oh yeah. No, there's no boredom at all.
Yeah. So
I think what we'll see too, we talk about this battle between the clones and the conscripted soldiers. You look at the clone armor and how similar it is to stormtrooper armor. Mm-hmm. I think for the general populace, this is just going to be like almost like, I don't want to say unnoticed, but they're going to understand what happened with, the clones are no good anymore. Okay. They had to go, but we're still going to have the same kind of presence. The clones are kind of policing now. Well, now all the conscripted soldiers, after this war happens, it's just going to be the same thing, but with conscripted soldiers as opposed to clones. Nothing's really going to change for the populace.
Well, other than I just feel like they haven't come out and said it yet, but conscripted soldiers are going to be better for maintaining control.
Yes.
Because, like I said, your sons, your daughters,
yep,
your brothers, your sisters, they are the soldiers that are out there, enforcing the Empire's will.
Right.
And that's going to make people more hesitant to standing up.
Right.
Because they don't want to fight their own.
Exactly. There's that element to it. And then when you're deployed as a stormtrooper, you better bet they're not, if you're from Tatooine, you're going to get deployed on Kashyyyk, right? You're not getting deployed on Tatooine where you're, oh, hey, Phil, how's it going? You get deployed where you don't know anybody. So it's easy for the stormtrooper to enforce.
Yeah, some people call this the ass end of space, but
exactly. Yeah, go watch Troops. Absolutely. But yes, so it's all of this stuff plays into, you know, how nefarious this whole thing is when you think about it. So,
Yeah.
And we're getting to see it all play out.
Yeah. We knew it was good.
Yes.
We knew this was all good, but somehow they're making it better.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, if you have anything to add, you can always email us, show@thewordsandmore.com. Best way to get a hold of us. We're also on social media. We're at The Words and More on Twitter, facebook.com/thewordsandmore. Find all that and all the ways to find the show over at thewordsandmore.com. Any final thoughts this week, Doug?
No, I think that about covers it.
All right. We will talk next week.